They had to bring Kleenexes out for me. So when you were a kid, I want you to think about what you wanted to be. I have 4 little kids, and they often say things to me like they want to be a scientist, a teacher, a doctor, or even a mommy. And I think the cool thing about kids is that they don't have any idea how much money any of those professions make. All they care about is helping people and leaving their legacy. I found that I got to a point in my life where I stopped wanting to help people and leave a legacy because all I was doing is chasing bills instead of chasing dreams. I'm guessing that most of you have been there, or you wouldn't be here tonight. So you remember that kid in grade school who wasn't afraid to do anything? You'd be at recess and you dare that kid to go up to the principal's window and blow their mouth up really big on the window, and all the kids would laugh. Well, I was the kid blowing my mouth up on the window. My poor mother, she was a single parent, and she was constantly pulling me out of detention. And I was a very courageous kid. I just didn't know where to direct my courage. So I went to college, but my rebelliousness and my courageousness seemed to follow me into adulthood, where I had a really hard time keeping a job. I started to expect myself to fail. I didn't see myself as courageous. I saw myself as discontent, unruly, and a failure in everything that I did. The one thing that I did know was right for me was my high school sweetheart. We got married when I was 23, and when we were 25, we had our first baby, and it was at that time that I realized what I had been put on this earth to do, and that was to be a mother. And I loved it so much that 16 months later, we welcomed our second child, a little girl, and I knew exactly what I wanted to do then. I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, and I was going to do whatever it took to do that. But the problem with that dream was the reality, and the reality was we didn't have enough money for me to stay at home. I needed to work. I remember one night sitting on the floor of the basement with a stack of bills that seemed to be a mile high, a calculator and a pad of paper, and a ton of tears, trying to figure out with my husband how we could cut $400 out of our budget. I couldn't make that work, so the next closest thing I could do was stay home and do in-home daycare. I was really unsatisfied with that, and again, I felt like a failure. But this time, the failure felt even worse because I felt like not only was I failing myself, but I was failing my family and my children. The only adult interaction that I had at that time was a group of women who were on a stay-at-home mom chat group, and I wrote a big long post one day about how miserable I was in my current situation, and one of the girls told me that she had recently been to a 31 party, and she lived in another state. I had never met her before. I didn't really know her at all. And so I immediately looked it up online, and pretty soon I had this sweet little southern girl named Mary calling me on the phone, and Mary was so excited, and she told me that 31 was going to be, and I think I quote, the opportunity of a lifetime. And I couldn't say no to her. She was so enthusiastic and sweet. All the while, in the back of my head, I was 100% sure that I had just signed up for the biggest scam of my entire life. Lucky for me, Mary wasn't all just enthusiastic. She was also honest, and right away I made that $400 that I needed to make. And for the next 4 months, I made that $400, and I promoted to director and was able to quit my daycare job. Thank you. But it really wasn't until a few months later when I was getting my hair cut by my aunt who cuts my hair. She was, you know how when you sit in that seat, something happens where you just like spew out everything? Well, I was having one of those moments going on and on and on. I tend to do that sometimes. And I was telling her all about my 31 adventure, and she stopped me and she said, Lindsey, something is different about you. You just seem so happy. And the way she said that made me realize that 31 wasn't just providing us with the financial means that we needed to get through every day, but it was helping me find that Lindsey who dared to dream anything. It was helping me find that courage that I had to go out and get people to book parties and recruit them and ask them to join my team. You see, I loved being a mom more than anything in the whole entire world, but I had really lost myself. And 31 was bringing my courage into a whole new light. In the last 6 years, I've had some amazing moments with 31 and some obstacles too. I mentioned in the beginning that I have 4 children. My children are ages 7, 6, 4, and 3. When my youngest was born, my oldest was 4. And it wasn't always easy for me to find time to work. So there were many times when I felt like I could just put this job away. I just didn't want to do it anymore because I wanted to be a mom, and that was really what I had felt like I had been called to do. But God had other plans for me, and He had called me to be a leader with 31. I really just wanted to make an extra $400 a month, but God showed me that there was more to it than that. The payoff has been far greater than anything I ever could have imagined, so I'm glad I stuck with it. I'm glad that I got up every day and worked my business. My husband has recently been able to retire from his job at age 32 from a job that required tons of long, hard hours, and he is now able to volunteer in our kids' schools, help me with my business, and be there for our kids all day. I have found countless friendships. Of course, you all know about the great incentive trips and vacations and electronics and all of those awesome extras, but I would say the most amazing thing about 31 is how my faith has grown. You see, 6 years ago, if you would have told me I would be standing here, I wouldn't have believed you. Because I didn't believe in myself, and I didn't believe I had anything positive to offer the world. God's been able to use my courage and my passion that used to get me into so much trouble and left me so undirected, and direct me to be a leader. And help me to ask people to book parties and to come join my team and to encourage them to do this with me. My hope is that now I am leaving my legacy and role modeling for my children every day, that when life starts running away with their dreams, that they can really take that step up and they can have the courage to follow what they want to do. People ask me a lot, aren't you afraid to ask people to book parties? Aren't you afraid to ask people to join your team? Weren't you afraid when your husband decided to leave his job? And my answer is absolutely. I'm afraid all the time. But in my head, I can always hear those kids on the playground saying, "Dare ya?" And that seems to get me revved up and get the job done every time. But tonight's not about my courage. Tonight's about the courage of the women on my team who have dared to dream their dream, and about all of you who have dared to dream yours. And I'm so excited to welcome all of the women who have taken their step in leadership to start believing in themselves and take the courage to step out and do something that maybe they never knew they were capable of doing.